Welcome to today's edition of the IntoTexas AI podcast. It's your look at AI news and trends impacting Texas. I'm your host, Shannon Belew. Let's get started. Typically on IntoTexas AI, we take a closer look at headlines that spotlight the changing AI landscape across the state. Today, we're doing something a little different. We want to highlight some of the resources out there supporting AI startups, leaders, and workers who are driving AI adoption. In fact, Texas has a growing number of organizations helping people build, commercialize, and scale artificial intelligence companies. It's one of the reasons that makes the AI ecosystem in Texas so appealing for entrepreneurs, investors, and frankly, everyone in between. Some of these resources provide investment and customer introductions. Others may offer technical facilities, access to university research, connections to highly specialized sector expertise, or just help enter a new market. There are also nonprofit communities that provide education, mentorship, and professional relationships long before someone may even be ready to apply to a formal startup program. The challenge is not that Texas lacks resources. The challenge is knowing where they are, what they do, and which one makes sense for your company's current stage. Today, we are looking at the kinds of support available to AI startups across Austin, Dallas Fort Worth, and Houston. We'll also look at some of the professional communities that can help aspiring founders or even established businesses and people working with AI who may not need an accelerator program or an incubator, but are looking to learn and engage and network. So, understanding the different types of support. The language of startup support can be a bit confusing if you're not familiar with it because we tend to use terms interchangeably, such as community, organizations, incubator, and accelerator, but each of them are a bit different. Let's start with a professional community or organization. That's usually the easiest place to begin, too. Often, this is in the form of a nonprofit, which may host workshops, discussions, hold mentorship programs, hackathons, and networking events. Participants do not normally need an incorporated company, a working product, or an investor presentation. These communities are designed to help someone understand the market, develop practical AI knowledge, meet collaborators, and test an idea through conversation before committing significant time or money. An incubator, on the other hand, generally works with true early stage companies over a longer period of time. It may provide workspace or office space, laboratories, coaching, technical facilities, and access to industry or university partners. Incubators can be especially valuable for companies developing, well, let's say robotics or medical technology, maybe some climate solutions or other products that really require more than maybe a laptop and a software subscription. Although those types of companies can enjoy some of that help as well. So, definitely open to all sorts of AI startups. But then let's talk a little bit about an accelerator, which is again different from an incubator. It's usually a concentrated program with a defined beginning and end. It's, well, just as the name indicates, it's designed to help a company move really fast. A selected group of companies or cohorts work toward a commercial milestone, such as validating the market, completing a pilot, reaching customers, or just becoming ready for investment. Now, some accelerators invest in the startups that they select to participate in the program. Others might charge fees or take equity. And then there may be some that operate without either of those requirements. Now, a founder doesn't always require the most intensive program available, like an accelerator. The right resource just depends on what the company needs to accomplish next. So, what stage are you at? Community can be the first step. The founder journey of a startup, well, it often begins before there's a formal company. Someone may realize that there's a costly problem that needs to be solved because, well, she's worked in an industry before. and seen it over, the course of years. She may believe that AI can help solve it, but have, no technical expertise to deliver the solution. Or maybe she needs a co-founder to help bring that company to those initial stages. Maybe she needs product strategy expertise, or maybe, she just hasn't had experience building a venture from the ground up. So at that stage, an AI community may be far more useful than a formal structured program like an incubator or an accelerator. In Dallas, we have a couple of examples of these types of communities that are available. There is AI Women Leaders, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and it connects women working in AI with mentorship, education, leadership opportunities, and professional visibility and networking. Its audience includes founders, executives, researchers, emerging leaders, and just those team members who are working in established businesses and want more practical exposure to AI or to peers who may have expertise in the area as well. So, again, it's a wide audience that it serves. Now, a future founder might meet a technical collaborator through that network. She might find an advisor or hear how another company handled a similar problem, or even to help her begin building credibility and exposure around the product or service that she's creating in that company that she is thinking about pursuing. So, the value, though, and this is really important, again, it's not limited to startups. An executive working for an established company may use the same community to understand how peers are approaching AI. A professional may gain practical knowledge and identify a new career direction, or find people with expertise that just doesn't exist inside their own organization. Now, there's another example here in the Dallas area called Dallas AI. It provides a very similar model. It's also a nonprofit, considered a professional forum with more than 10,000 members across North Texas. Its events and programs are designed for professional learning and networking among executives, academic researchers, AI practitioners, of course, entrepreneurs, and just other people working with the technology. For an aspiring founder, a conversation at one of those events may reveal, again, what companies are actually buying and which which applications are becoming crowded, and what concerns enterprise customers have about maybe security or data or implementation of AI. That kind of informal market intelligence can help a future founder significantly. It can prevent someone from spending, months building a product based on an untested assumption. Well, when we move to the Austin area, one of the associations or communities that we want to highlight is the Austin AI Hub, which again offers another very accessible entry point. This nonprofit hosts free workshops led by researchers and experienced AI engineers, and it welcomes people ranging from complete beginners to technical professionals. These organizations are definitely not substitutes for formal startup programs. It's important to remember that as well. They just serve a very different purpose. And again, they're designed to help people learn to build relationships in that community and sometimes decide whether an idea is ready to become a company. In many cases, the community is where the founder can also identify the problem and maybe meet part of their future team and even become prepared to use a more structured incubator or accelerator program effectively. Texas has resources at all of these stages. So once a company is more clearly defined, the available support becomes more specialized. Austin probably has the state's most established general technology startup network. I would say that a DFW combines broad founder support with expertise in certain sectors such as healthcare, financial services, and definitely access to professional AI communities. Whereas Houston, I think it offers particularly deep connections to sectors that include healthcare, energy, climate technology, and industrial markets. These regional differences give Texas founders, several paths rather than forcing every company through the same model. And it's nice to have choices. Of course, you can participate across multiple communities or organizations as well. Now, a note about cost, just because an organization is a nonprofit, profit doesn't mean that membership is free. AI Women Leaders is an example. They have a tiered paid monthly membership program. But if you don't want to join yet or you don't think you're ready, you don't have to pay for membership. You can still enjoy some of their events and just pay the fee to attend the events. The other companies or organizations, communities that we've discussed thus far, they are all free to enjoy membership. All right, let's talk about Austin and technology networks and deep tech support. So, when we discuss some of the available resources in Austin, one in particular that comes to mind is Capital Factory. It's probably one of the best known organizations in the Austin ecosystem, although it treats really all of Texas as one community. So, it really doesn't limit support or funding or opportunity by geography. It began as software accelerator, but has really evolved into something more. It now sits somewhere between a VC fund and what I'd call a sophisticated startup network. So its Texas Fund is what invests in deep and frontier technologies, while its All Access network connects companies with customers, investors, and other resources. Now, that model is better suited to a company with enough substance to benefit from strategic introductions than to someone who is still deciding what to build. And there is an application process once you get into the accelerator and incubator type programs. So it's not like you can just walk in and immediately join. So you really have to think about whether or not your company is ready to even apply for these types of programs. When you think about maybe some successes that have come out of them, there are definitely a couple of examples. Aptronic offers a great example of the kind of long term support that Capital Factory in particular can provide. So, this is a success story out of that program. Austin based company. Aptronic develops AI powered humanoid robots for manufacturing, logistics, and other physical type of work. Capital Factory first invested in Aptronic through its 2022 seed round, and the relationship grew into an advisory model designed to connect the startup with investors, customers, and even talent. According to Capital Factory, the relationship led to introductions involving the United States military and an early investment, and then another investor introduction, and continuing just board level guidance through leadership changes, fundraising, and commercial and defense contracts. By 2026, this year, Aptronic had already closed more than $935 million in Series A financing, raised across several periods between February 2025 and February of this year. So, this is not the story of a company spending 3 months in a conventional accelerator and emerging fully formed. It really shows how an ecosystem organization can provide sustained access to capital, advisors, and even difficult to reach customers as a technically complex company develops. Austin also has the Austin Technology Incubator at the University of Texas. It was founded in 1989, and it's also considered the longest active technology business incubator in the United States. That's impressive. ATI works with university and community entrepreneurs developing deep technology companies in healthcare, energy, agriculture, mobility, water, microelectronics, and related fields. Its support is customized around commercialization, funding relationships, and technical expertise. A company does not need to be based on UT technology to apply. So that is particularly relevant to AI companies who products depend on scientific research, hardware, or intellectual property. Together, these organizations illustrate the range available within just one city, never mind an entire state. A founder might need early market education, deep technology commercialization, or access to capital and major customers. Those are all very different needs. And Austin definitely has organizations serving each one of those. All right, let's talk a little bit about Dallas Fort Worth validation and specialized healthcare support. So, the DFW area combines community resources, as we've talked about before, with structured programs for companies that are ready to move beyond exploration. TechFW is a nonprofit, equity free accelerator and incubator serving founders across Fort Worth and North Texas. Its programs address several stages of company development. Amongst its three programs, they have Think Lab, which helps founders really pressure test an idea, talk with potential customers, and decide whether to launch or not, whether to change direction a bit or maybe just shelve the concept entirely. The other program is Smart Start, which supports founders building an initial product and business operation. And then Fast Forward is the program that focuses on companies preparing for growth and investment. So, probably the one that's most like an accelerator type of approach. TechFW does not take equity in participating companies. Founded in 1998, TechFW says it has supported over 230 companies, helping its pipeline generate more than $3.2 billion in total exit value. All right, and then there is the Dallas based Health Wildcatters, which provides more specialized support for healthcare related companies. Its accelerator selects a small annual cohort for an extensive program that includes seed investment, mentoring, and connections to investors and healthcare expertise. Its portfolio includes more than 118 companies that have collectively raised more than $300 million. For a healthcare AI company, that industry focus is important. The combination of organizations such as Dallas AI, AI Women Leaders, TechFW, and Health Wildcatters means that for North Texas, it really offers support from the earliest learning stage or exploration through validation stage, investment preparation, and specialized sector commercialization, even. So, really great to see that range of resources in another Texas area. All right, so then let's move over to Houston and talk about industry access and AI commercialization there. Houston's resources are closely connected to the region's major industries. The Rice AI Venture Accelerator, known as RAVA, is a 12-week program led by Rice University and Google Cloud. It supports early stage AI companies with technical resources, mentorship, and connections to corporate partners. The program includes access to cloud and computing services, AI sandbox environments, GPU optimization, and cybersecurity expertise. Its focus areas include healthcare, energy, industrial applications, and the public sector. Now, Rava is a good example of how AI accelerator programs are changing. General business coaching remains useful, but an AI startup may also need help managing some more unique challenges, such as handling compute cost and evaluating technical performance in a different type of way and protecting data and building on enterprise grade infrastructure. Now, this program is actually relatively new. It started just last year in 2025. So we'd be a bit premature to, try to claim that it has produced a major funding or acquisition success, but its partnership with Google and a prominent VC firm really helped it earn credibility quickly. So I would expect that there are going to be success stories rolling out of that of that accelerator program very quickly. And, its relevance lies in the type of support it's designed to provide. Now, let's also talk about the Texas Medical Center. It offers another specialized pathway through the TMC Innovation Health Tech Accelerator. This is a 6-month program which works with digital health and medical device companies that have reached at least the proof of concept stage. It connects founders with hospitals, clinical champions, mentors, and even corporate partners. Participants of this accelerator program receive guidance involving clinical validation, regulatory strategy, data security, hospital procurement, intellectual property, and pilot development and fundraising. And, that support can be critical in the healthcare industry. A technically strong product may still fail if it does not fit the specific clinical workflow, or it can't pass a security review, or lacks even an internal sponsor who can move that pilot through the organization or the healthcare system. So TMC's value is not necessarily that it allows founders to skip any of those requirements, but it helps them understand the requirements and reach the right people sooner. Let's also talk about Greentown Labs Houston, which serves companies working in climate technology, energy, manufacturing, and industrial systems. In 2025, Greentown and Shoreless launched an AI lab within the Houston Incubator. The lab supports startups using AI for supply chain optimization and decarbonization. Its climate sprint sessions are intended to help startups and corporate partners find ways to reduce emissions, lower expenses, and develop new sources of revenue. Now, an industrial AI company may need operational data, hardware facilities, and access to companies that are willing to test the technology under real world conditions. Again, the type of support needed as a startup or in the sector you serve can really influence which type of resource is best suited for you. All right, let's also talk about why speed matters once a company, a startup is ready to move forward. When you think about the differences between incubators and accelerators, like we've talked about today, some may question how important speed to market really is, or those shorter accelerator cycles. How important are they really? Well, one reason founders may seek of that speed that comes from an accelerator program has to do with just the speed at which tech is operating and changing today, especially when we talk about AI. The AI market changes quickly, and the time between identifying an opportunity and facing serious competition can be a very short time frame. Cursor is probably a good example of a company that has moved very quickly in the AI world. In August 2024, the AI coding company announced a $60 million Series A at a $400 million valuation. 15 months and 3 funding rounds later, in November 2025, it announced a $2.3 billion financing round at a $29.3 billion valuation. Now, Cursor is not an accelerator success story, well, that we know of or that we could find. And I think that, unfortunately, very few companies will likely grow at that staggering pace. But I do think that it is useful because it does show how compressed the AI market has become. For most founders, speed does not necessarily mean becoming a multi-billion-dollar company in 3 or 4 years. It means learning before the company runs out of capital. It means reaching customers while the market opportunity is still open. It could mean discovering technical, security, or regulatory problems before they delay deployment. And it means outpacing competitors, even though that even those that didn't exist at the time you started the company. All right, the right accelerator can shorten all of those learning cycles. And that's what you need to think about, right? It can connect a founder with the customer who explains why the current product may not be purchased. It can expose a security issue before you get to that enterprise level review. It could provide infrastructure that the company could not otherwise afford, or maybe introduce an investor who really understands that market that you're targeting. So beyond speed, the broader value is just helping a company make better decisions quicker and with access to people and expertise and resources that it probably just doesn't possess yet internally. Well, as we've discussed today, Texas has a substantial collection of AI communities, incubators, accelerators, even university programs and industry organizations. And frankly, today's episode has only highlighted a handful of them that are truly available across the state. The takeaway for you is knowing that there are resources available at nearly every stage, from the first conversation about an idea to enterprise deployment and investment. And if you're not a startup, there are also plenty of resources to help immerse you into the world of AI from a business or technical perspective. The opportunity is simply knowing which door to open next. And by the way, if you know of a community or an accelerator or an incubator that is helping open those doors for people, please drop info about them into our comments so that we can help spread the word about how they are helping build the AI ecosystem across Texas. This has been today's episode of the IntoTexas AI podcast. As always, I really appreciate you joining us and taking the time to engage. If you like what you hear and you want more insights about how AI is reshaping Texas, then I invite you to watch and listen again, to please share. And I would love to have you become a subscriber as well. Until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Belew.